What is the biggest difference between the highly successful professional poker players that many of you guys aspire to be and the budding amateur that's not quite got their shit together yet? The biggest difference is not what you think it is, but it's something that will transform the way you view your own poker career. I'm going to go over some hands today that I just played in a session that I've just come off of, and these hands illustrate one of the biggest differences between those that make it in poker and those that don't. Let's get into it. Alright, we've got the replayer up, we've got the kind of fat looking carrots going on here in the background. This is of course Carrot Corner Poker Education. The AI built these carrots and it put obnoxious weird flower petal things all over the place as well, so we just have to accept that AI is going to AI. The biggest difference between the amateur and the pro, in my opinion, apart from the obvious like the pro's better at poker, yeah sure, but if we can pinpoint one specific thing, then it's this. When the pro is running bad, the pro's game doesn't fall into pieces. The amateur's game declines significantly. Some days when you start your session, it becomes abundantly clear after the first half an hour that this is not to be a winning day. This is going to be a day where you don't flop very much, you don't hit many sets or straights or flushes, your opponents do, you face constant aggression, you have the bottom of your range over and over again, your bluffs are getting picked off, your steals are getting 3-bet when you have the bottom of your range, your 4-bet bluffs are getting jammed over. It's just one of those days. This is the way it goes sometimes. But what happens here, where there's a kind of sliding doors moment where one person goes one way and the other goes the other way, is that the professional maximizes EV during the losing session. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to maximize the EV of every hand we play like a robot on a conveyor belt, scanning an item and giving it the highest EV possible and sending it on its way. The amateur very often maximizes one of two other things that are not the right things to maximize. The first way the amateur goes wrong is that they try to maximize the chance of getting even. Maximizing the chances that you get even is not the same thing as maximizing your EV, because if you try to finish in the black, you will go out of your way to take risks that are probably bad. You will enter pots you shouldn't enter. You will make bluffs that you haven't really properly assessed. You will make calls based on desire instead of folding where you should fold. And you will increase the chances of you breaking even, and sometimes it might pay dividends, and it might even, God forbid, reinforce that behavioral pattern, but very often it will make things much worse. If you have the choice of being down 4 buy-ins in EV, or being down 6 in EV, but breaking even a bit more often, you want to settle for being down 4 buy-ins and breaking even less often. I hope that makes sense, because by trying to break even at all costs, by trying to claw back what you've lost, you're increasing the downside considerably and you're decreasing your overall EV. Your overall EV is now worse than the negative 4 buy-ins it would be if you played your A game. So some days your A game returns an expected value of minus 4 buy-ins on that day, because that's just the way the cards fall on that day. It's not your true EV, but it's your EV for that day if you play your best. The other thing people do, which is just as bad, is that they go into their shell and they try to minimize the chances of finishing really down. They see losing 9 or 10 buy-ins as like an absolute disaster, and they want to mitigate that at all costs, and they become risk averse, they fold too much, they avoid good bluffs, they retreat behind the walls of their own fears and anxieties, and they minimize EV that way. The pro takes all of the good spots, remains objective, and maximizes EV. So there are 3 ways we can go here. We can maximize EV by taking every spot as it comes completely objectively, or we can minimize it by chasing losses and trying to finish even at all costs, or we can minimize it by being risk adverse and retreating into a shell and really hoping we don't end up down 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 buy-ins. The last 2 ways are what the amateur does most of the time.